Okay, let's take a look at some problems involving the sine and cosine of radian values. Sine of 3 pi halves, cosine 7 pi 6, sine 5 pi thirds, cosine negative 3 pi fourths. Let's just start with that. First of all, you can always, at the beginning of your learning about radians, you can always convert into degrees. I think it's useful to try to think in terms of radians. So one of the things that I think is valuable is to say, look at your quarters, same way you would do with degrees, 0, pi halves, 2 pi halves. Of course, 2 pi halves is just pi. And then 3 pi halves is down here. So sine of 3 pi halves, of course, sine, we're thinking about the coordinate x, y. We've got cosine, sine, right? So the sine value is connected to the y value at that point. So what is the point of the unit circle down here? The x value is 0. The y value is -1. So the sine of 3 pi halves should be -1. Okay, let's do another one. Cosine 7 pi 6. So when I think of 7 pi 6, thinking of pi and another pi sixths, right? Because this is 6 pi sixths and another pi sixths. So we're here at pi, and then we're going on another pi sixths. So that should take us to this point. Now, whenever I'm here, I kind of imagine this triangle and think, which one is longer, x or y? So x is definitely the longer value here compared to y. So as I'm thinking of this, the two values, right? You got the square root of 3 over 2, 1/2. This is the bigger of the two values. So here, x is the bigger of the two, y is the smaller, and x and y are both negative. So this is x negative square root of 3 over 2, -1/2. Again, we're looking at cosine. So that's the x value. So this should be equal to negative square root of 3 over 2. So there's a process involved in mentally calculating out what each of these is, right? It starts with the radian measure and thinking about where that puts me, and then it goes to figuring out the coordinate, and then finally, who do I want, x or y, or in the case of tangent or cotangent, cosecant, secant, I may be flipping these or something. All right, 5 pi thirds. So 5 pi thirds, again, I'm going to split that 5 pi thirds into pi and 2 pi thirds. Thinking about pi as 3 pi thirds. So that's going to be pi, and let me change my color here. So I was at pi, now I'm going 2 pi thirds, so I'm down here. No, that's another pi third, then another pi third takes me over here. So this should be 5 pi thirds. Of course, another pi third takes me back to 2 pi thirds. So that's another way to kind of check my thinking, right? So I made a mistake there in my initial thinking and then caught myself. That was 1 pi third added on. This is another pi third added on. You want to build in processes as you're thinking about math that help you evaluate whether it makes sense or not, whether what you're thinking, what you're doing is correct. That's a part of thinking mathematically. Okay, so 5 pi thirds is here. Again, as I'm imagining this triangle, I've got my x, I've got my y. Here, the y is the bigger part. So this is going to be 1/2. The smaller part is x. The bigger part is the square root of 3 over 2. That's the y value, but it's negative because I'm in the fourth quadrant. Right? My x value is positive, my y value is negative. So what do I want? Sine, again, it's y, -3, square root of 3 over 2. Okay, last but not least, -3 pi fourths. So first of all, let me get rid of some of this stuff. -3 pi fourths. Negative 3 pi fourths is less than 4 pi fourths. So I have not even gone a half of a rotation here, and I'm going the other direction, so I need to go this way. So I'm going to end up out here. Negative 3 pi fourths is the angle measure there. And then I've got my coordinate. These are both negative, and they're both the same. Square root of 2 over 2, negative square root of 2 over 2. Right? Whenever I'm at that 45 degree, which is the quarter pi mark, those are relatively easy because it's the same thing. I just got to make sure I figure out the positives and negatives. Cosine, that's x value, negative root 2 over 2. Not that it really matters here since it's the same value. And of course, I would add the step of checking by just doing a little bit of calculator work just to see what the calculator is, just to see that, it actually works out. But remember that when you're using your calculator to do that, you got to make sure you're in Radian mode. If you don't know how to switch into Radian mode, let me know. I can help. Okay, onwards and upwards.